Wandering through the vast wilderness of the untamed wilds that is Final Fantasy XI, one can occasionally encounter, by accident or intentional purpose, rare and dangerous enemies that will test your limits like nothing you've faced before, while providing the chance of rare rewards. Weapons that attack twice as often, quite literally changing the nature of your style of play, body pieces that restore MP automatically, preventing that annoying need for you to rest like the common peasants, materials required for crafting that could quite literally take you from rags to riches overnight. These were the notorious monsters, and one of the most beloved aspects of Final Fantasy XI that kept every day fresh and exciting, and left you wondering what might be waiting around that next corner. Guys, it has been way too long, but we are back with Final Fantasy XI's favorite notorious monster series, and no better way to return than to close out the damn 60s. There have been so many notorious monsters in this range that I've loved and hated over the years that it has been a long road of 5 videos for me to even start to feel satisfied about covering them all. But we've got some good ones to close it out, so let's get right into it. But real quick before we start, guys, holy crap, 5,000 subs. It literally explosively snuck up on me this weekend because you guys went on a subscription rampage and said screw the 4,000s, we're breaking out. And you guys know what that means. Keep your eyes peeled for a Q&A announcement video coming soon, but let's get back to the notorious monsters. How does one close out the 60s? Obviously with the source of one of the most widely used pieces of gear in existence. This is a rarity on these lists though, as it doesn't drop the gear itself, but one of the leather pieces required to make it. I'm of course talking about Amumet and his smooth and supple skin. Amumet literally looks exactly like Leaping Lizzie, which says a lot about what kind of game Final Fantasy XI was. As a level 66 lizard, he could take anyone's ass up until basically 75, at which point he would still probably kick your ass. Lizards are crappy. They've got like, the petrification, the fire, they're just a piece of shit. They're just awful. I never hunted him myself, partly because he was damn popular and because Kuftal Tunnel might have been one of the most populated fringe zones in the game. I mean, it's damn far out there, but between skill ups, other notorious monsters, leveling parties, it was just packed. You were never going to show up and be like, oh, what a beautiful morning. I'm alone on the hunt for Amumet today. There were always people in there, and they usually would beat you to it. The Amumet Mantle itself and its more common, beefier sibling, the Amumet Mantle Plus 1, was a damn strong backpiece level 61 and usable straight through 75. Now there were better options out there once you capped out at 75, but they were usually out of most players' price range. I mean, they were some expensive stuff. 2 strength and 15 attack was just freaking solid back at 75, and you'd notice if you were the only melee in the party that couldn't quite afford one yet. They usually weren't too expensive, maybe because this guy drops up to 4 of the skins apparently, but if you were melee leveling up through this range, after just finalizing your artifact gear and then throwing this bad boy on, you start to feel like you were getting there, like that level 75 was just around the corner and you were kind of turning into a little bit of a badass. Of course, while getting materials is all well and good, and you certainly can be excited about the riches soon to come your way from selling those rare skins or leathers or sheep's wool or whatever, nothing quite compares to getting the item itself. Bringing us to number 2, Sitapati. Sitapati is a certifiable nightmare, and I'm pretty sure I barely won in my one and only attempt to solo him on Summoner, with like nothing actually dropping. Cores were rare and awful and undead in all the worst ways. But he dropped the Druid Slops, which were yummy and fun, but more importantly, he also dropped the Harpy. The Harpy was, apart from being the coolest looking dagger in the game, one of the highest damage options available behind Relic. Now the Blau Dolch was certainly a better option for overall damage dealing ability, and you'd pay for it, but for like that raw high damage 35 damage output number, and at an earlier level I might add, the Harpy couldn't be beat. I loved this thing. We had an on again off again relationship when I wanted to invest most of my money in my Thief, and it always made me feel like I might actually be a decently geared player when I had it equipped. Of course, most of the times that I'd owned it, I'd bought it off the auction house because it dropped from this undead monstrosity way out in Adawak Chasm. Once every 3 to 6 game nights between 20 and 4 in Adawak Chasm. I mean, this guy was the worst in an area that literally has grounds that poison you, surrounded by the just standard skeletons and scorpions, all of which were enough to kick your ass. And getting there, you had to go over those little antlion traps, which would scare you half, if not all the way, to death. They would just like pop out enormous and attack you. And honestly, they were pretty tough in their own right. So that's just like zone problems. Then you have to actually kill the courses to get them to pop, which I mean, come on. Always like the ice spike situation. They like to cast Thundagas at you. Sleep Kit 2 when you're starting to feel confident. Any number of ways for you to accidentally go down for no reason. He was just tough and uncommon and hard to get to, and dropped one of the best daggers in the game. I've bought and sold and rebought the Harpy more times than I think any other piece of gear, because unlike some other expensive stuff that I might be able to convince myself I could need or use elsewhere, this was only for Thief. I mean, it was truly an item that you were investing in a single job. Yes, Warrior could use it, but they wouldn't. Again, those pants weren't bad either, but you didn't fumble your way out to this dusty, poisonous shithole for the Druid slops. I'm sorry, you came for the Harpy. But speaking of dusty, poisonous shitholes, our final notorious monster of the 60s range is in an area that is literally none of those things. The enemy that definitely takes the cake for being most killed by or killing of parties just by like accidental pulls. The crabbiest of crabs, Aquarius. Aquarius would pop literally in a common camp in the Boyata tree, killing crabs for hours. Pullers often wouldn't even notice that one had a different name and looked ready to take you down, despite the fact that it was identical in every way to the other crabs. It looks the same. It's not fair. He was sought after by, I'm assuming, rangers for his axe, because it was, some ranged accuracy and ranged attack. Although to be fair, after the change to make it rare exclusive, he wasn't really all that hot of a commodity. But damn was he famous. Much like Kufdal Tunnel, Boyata Tree was a nexus of activity in Final Fantasy XI, with H&Ms, avatars, leveling parties, skill-up parties, all pleasantly existing side by side in one of the most beautiful zones in the game. All those delicious crabbies all over the place, it was just destined to be a popular spot. Everybody loves crabs. Aquarius for me though wasn't really a possible source of income, or the holder of some kind of crazy gear that I had to get my hands on. I never did level that ranger. But instead, it was just a benchmark of ability. I had heard the crazy stories of summoners soloing Aquarius by kiting him through the twisting hallways of the Boyata Tree for like up to an hour, with Carby kiting. And I didn't know why this was a big deal when I first started the game. I figured he must just be a tough, notorious monster. In fact, I thought he was probably a bigger deal at the time, just because a lot of people talked about him. I didn't realize he was just kind of like that guy. But that story was one of the reasons I ended up leveling Summoner. I was just like, this sounds so cool that they can just do this thing where they send out a carbuncle, run away, and send out another one for hours. So yeah, I leveled Summoner mostly because of some stupid crab out in Boyata Tree being tough but soloable by this mythical job. I'll always remember my own first attempt. I was like 68 or 70 or something, and I just wanted to see if I could beat him. And after 45 minutes of Carby kiting back and forth past the same stupid spiders over and over again, I tripped up and he got me. But the thrill of finally attempting one of those such and so job can totally do this to that tough monster no one ever survives. Isn't that nuts? I've heard it's possible. Aquarius wasn't some sort of end-all be-all notorious monster. He was just a tough crab, and I was ecstatic to get to try and take him down myself. So for me, regardless of how useless the axe is now and how limited its purpose was even in the 75 era days, Aquarius will always remain an example of the threat that notorious monsters pose. A dangerous reminder that around any turn, no matter how familiar with the area and its monsters you might be, a stronger, more difficult enemy might appear at any time. Guys, I'm glad to finally get back to the favorite notorious monsters video, and I'm sorry it has taken so long. Don't worry, we've got plenty to touch on for the 70s, and I guess 80s, because I think a lot of the big baddies from the 75 era were in the 80s themselves. So, plenty more to come soon. Keep hunting for those NMs, and check back for more videos. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, you should totally think about subscribing. I've got videos coming out twice a week, and if you like this one, there's at least a chance you'll like some of the others that are very similar to this, so live dangerously. Let me know what you guys thought about the video in the comments and other videos you'd like to see. And finally, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Hunting for Games to keep up with all the latest stuff. See ya.